Boris Johnson will finally get an adequate Brexit deal through Parliament, according to Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Michael Gove. In order to finally break the Brexit deadlock, Mr. Johnson submitted his final offer to the EU on Wednesday. Mr. Johnson challenged Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker to accept the reasonable compromise and finally break the Brexit deadlock. Mr. Johnson's 5-point plan includes keeping Northern Ireland in the single market when it leaves the EU customs union with the rest of the UK, giving Stormont the right to veto staying in all-Ireland regulatory zone, conducting customs checks, setting money aside for Belfast and Dublin, and keeping freedom of movement between the UK and Ireland. Speaking on ITV's Peston, Mr. Gove revealed that the deal has a very good chance of getting through. Mr. Gove insisted that Mr. Johnson had managed to secure the support of the DUP, a number of Tory rebels and Labour MPs who want a deal. He added, "The DUP are a supporter of it, they didn't support any of the previous attempts to get a deal. A number of Tory MPs that were unhappy with Theresa May's deal are now a supporter of it, and some broad-minded and constructive Labour MPs." Overall, Mr. Gove stated that Mr. Johnson had secured a solid majority in order to leave the EU on the 31st of October. Under Mr. Johnson's new plan, there would effectively be a border in the Irish Sea, whereby goods coming into Northern Ireland are checked and sent back to the EU if they do not comply to standards. Speaking on the New Deal, DUP leader Arlene Foster endorsed Mr. Johnson's plan. Ms. Foster labelled the proposal as a serious and sensible way forward as the Prime Minister looks to finally break the Brexit impasse. The DUP leader also insisted that the improved role for Stormont and the financial package for Northern Ireland were also improvements. She added, "We believe this is a serious and sensible way forward to have engagement with the European Union in a way that allows us all in the United Kingdom to leave the European Union. Therefore we will be supporting this plan. What it does is allows us to leave the European Union Customs Union. It allows us to leave the single market, and then we opt in if we are not in the position to put in alternative arrangements at that time. So, therefore, we consent to whatever is coming forward. So that is the difference. It is a big difference, and we believe it is something that works for Northern Ireland whilst letting us leave the European Union." However, Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar insisted that Mr. Johnson's plan was not the basis for an agreement. Following Mr. Johnson's announcement, Mr. Juncker said that the Commission would study the proposal objectively. Mr. Juncker also stated that he was ready to work 24/7 to make this happen. German Chancellor Angela Merkel also issued her intent to try and work on the deal. She said that the EU states would examine the proposal closely and evaluate them together. Away from the news of Mr. Johnson's Brexit deal, the Prime Minister will attempt to once again suspend Parliament. Mr. Johnson intends to suspend Parliament next Tuesday until the 14th of October in order to clear the way for the Queen's speech.